Every day, I wake up to a feast. Where I can sink my teeth into history. Or shock my taste buds with something new. It's here I learned the color of sweetness, expanded my pantry, and my appetite. Every next bite only leaves you hungry for more.
Today, I woke up at the edge of the world, where time can't reach. Tiny houses stand untouched by the present. Rolling hills drop off to who knows. Customs are a little different here. Even the fashion is extraordinary. Every corner stands another wonder. Our own little world away from it all. I just woke up in a non-stop action scene, where we're always at the edge of our seats, defying gravity one moment, to communing with giants, and getting lost in the lights the next. After feeling the heat, and I mean really feeling the heat, we finally regained our balance. And found our epic finale. Today, I woke up on a wild ride. Right in the middle of a river. It takes me to some pretty unexpected drops. I rode a bunch of highs and lows. I screamed at the top of my lungs. Just when I thought it was over, there was another thrill waiting around the corner. And for however long I stay for the ride, it's always an adventure.
I woke up to worlds unknown. Where water is stronger than rock. So I learned to sit back and enjoy the ride. Get washed up on a deserted island. Explore the locals' living history. Perhaps even find a hole in the wall. Or discover a whole new world to be on top of.
Once I woke up in a hidden place. Paradise unlike anything I had ever seen. And not the kind of fantasy, but one you could really sink your toes into. I walked beaches few had ever walked before, while the waves whispered their secrets. This place was my buried treasure. And even though I couldn't stay forever, the story of the islands never leaves me.
Today, I woke up below the surface, where I learned to face my fears and go with the flow. But it's when I came to appreciate the big and the small. Made new friends from all over and could no longer hide my true colors, that I knew I'd emerged a local.
I woke up to my own adventure book, having no idea what was up next. Each page was different. Every chapter, a new surprise. All I could do was go along for the ride. Trust my gut and let the story unfold. Because here, the best travel plan is to make no plans and just let life happen.
Today, I woke up in a historic playground where fun dates back to the 16th century. Things are pretty old school here. Really old school. We get our thrills in a giant sandbox and spend all day playing in the water, where adventures come by the hundreds. This is a place where time stands absolutely still. But we can never seem to.
Every day, I wake up to a feast. Where I can sink my teeth into history. Or shock my taste buds with something new. It's here I learned the color of sweetness.
expanded my pantry and my appetite. Every next bite only leaves you hungry for more.
Today, I woke up at the edge of the world, where time can't reach. Tiny houses stand untouched by the present. Rolling hills drop off to who knows. Customs are a little different here. Even the fashion is extraordinary. Every corner stands another wonder. Our own little world away from it all. I just woke up in a non-stop action scene where we're always at the edge of our seats, defying gravity one moment to communing with giants and getting lost in the lights the next. After feeling the heat, and I mean really feeling the heat, we finally regained our balance. And found our epic finale. Today, I woke up on a wild ride. Right in the middle of a river. It takes me to some pretty unexpected drops. I rode a bunch of highs and lows. I screamed at the top of my lungs. Just when I thought it was over, there was another thrill waiting around the corner. And for however long I stay for the ride, it's always an adventure.
I woke up to worlds unknown. Where water is stronger than rock. So I learned to sit back and enjoy the ride. Get washed up on a deserted island. Explore the locals' living history. Perhaps even find a hole in the wall. Or discover a whole new world to be on top of.
Good afternoon, everyone. Let us start our program with an invocation to be followed by the singing of the national anthem.
Mga kababayan, ilagay po natin ang ating kanang kamay sa ating kaliwang dibdib at sabay-sabay po nating awitin ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas. Bayang magiliw, perlas ng silanganan, alab ng puso, sa dibdib mo'y buhay, lupang hinirang, duyan ka ng magiting, sa manlulupig, di ka pasisiil, sa dagat at bundok, sa simoy at sa langit mong bughaw, may dilag ang tula at awit sa paglayang minamahal, ang kislap ng watawat mo'y tagumpay na nagniningning, ang bituin at araw niya kailan pa may di magdidilim, lupa ng araw ng luwalhatit pagsinta, buhay ay langit sa piling mo. Aming ligaya na pag may mga api ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Once again, good afternoon and welcome to Balikan ng Pilipinas, More Fun Awaits, a webinar for overseas Filipinos. Greetings to all the participants here in Zoom. We are also live in Facebook through the official Facebook page of the Department of Tourism, Philippines. To formally open our program, let us listen to the welcome message of the Secretary of the Department of Tourism, Secretary Bernadette Romulo Puya.
Nuki, Philippine Migrants' Rights Watch President and Chair of the Interagency Committee for the month of Overseas Filipinos and Philippine International Migrants Day, Director Ivy Miravalles, Commission on Filipinos Overseas, DOT-OIC Undersecretary Verna Buensuceso, Tourism Development, representatives from the Department of Tourism, national government agencies, local tourism offices, partners from the private sector, members of the academe, friends from the media, resource speakers, panelists, and all overseas Filipinos around the world, a pleasant day to you all. The annual celebration of the Month of Overseas Filipinos started in 1988 with the issuance of Proclamation number 276, which institutionalized the month-long celebration every December. This is in recognition of the significant contributions of our overseas Filipinos to Philippine development and the restoration of Philippine democracy. In October 2007, an interagency committee for the celebration of the month of overseas Filipinos and International Migrants Day was created through Administrative Order number 202. As an active member of the IAC, the Department of Tourism organized this webinar entitled Balikan ang Pilipinas, More Fun Awaits. In support of this year's theme, OFs in the New Normal, Supporting Resilience Towards the Post-COVID Era, this webinar will be a venue to discuss the travel and tourism-related programs and branding-related campaigns, opportunities in tourism, and online services available to our overseas Filipinos. This is our way of giving back to our modern-day heroes, our beloved overseas Filipinos, who have also been our unofficial but undeniably effective tourism ambassadors, spreading the fun in the Philippines wherever they are in the world. Our kababayans are the frontliners in showcasing Filipino hospitality to our foreign friends across the globe. And your warm gestures are part of what encourages travelers to come to the Philippines and experience more fun in the country. Through the continuous efforts of the department, along with our partners in the local government and private sector, in the implementation of the safe reopening of destinations, we welcome you back home with the same warmth and joy and hope that you can enjoy the Philippines once again together with your loved ones. For a glimpse of what awaits you, our kababayans, we invite you all to watch our promotional video, Balikan ang Pilipinas. Thank you very much. Please stay safe and mabuhay po kayong lahat.
Kumusta uwi mo dyan, anak? Ang mga salita
And what we have just witnessed was the Balikan ng Pilipinas AVP. And thank you, Secretary Bernadette Romulo Puyat, for the warm welcome message. Now let us listen to the keynote speech to be provided by the President of Philippine Migrants' Rights Watch and the Chairperson of the Interagency Committee for the Month of Overseas Filipinos, Ms. Carmelita G. Nuki.
Thank you. Good Secretary Bernadette Romulo Puyat and Undersecretary Berna Esmeralda Buensuceso of the DOT, representatives from other government agencies, members of the IAC MOF, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, a pleasant good afternoon. We are pleased to be celebrating the 15th year of the Interagency Committee for the celebration of the Month of Overseas Filipinos and International Migrants Day. Although the IAC was created through Administrative Order Number 202 in 2007, the commemoration of MOF every December was institutionalized during the administration of President Corazon Aquino, issuing Proclamation Number 276 in 1988, while International Migrants Day was proclaimed by the UN General Assembly in December 2000. The IAC-MOF, comprised of government and non-government organizations, lined up several events and activities for the month of November and December as tribute to our overseas Filipinos and their families and other migrant Filipinos. The Philippine Migrants' Rights Watch is the chair of the ICMOF, with the Commission on Filipinos Overseas as co-chair, and the Department of Tourism is one of its founding members. The celebration of the Month of Overseas Filipinos provides venue to discuss on pressing issues affecting the rights and welfare of our migrants and members of their families. Because of this, there is further awareness on the issues, initiatives, and the implementation of policies and programs are developed and strengthened. One of such activities of the ICMOF is this Balikan ang Pilipinas, More Fun Awaits, a webinar for overseas Filipinos organized by the Department of Tourism. For almost 2 years, the COVID-19 pandemic has taken its toll in our economic and social framework and others. Tourism is considered one of the heaviest casualties at this critical time, as we have seen the loss of jobs, businesses, and establishments related to tourism. New and budding spots and even long-established institutions closed their doors due to this crisis. However, at this time, we are able to find ways to survive and transform a crisis into opportunities to rebuild and recover this debilitating situation. A classic example of which is the resiliency of our hotel industry. The start of the pandemic gave a heavy blow on hotels as bookings for accommodations and events were reduced to zero. This was thought to be the end of the industry and a looming crisis, as thousands would have their jobs compromised, leading to a vicious crisis that would affect all sectors: the income, family security, health, and well-being. But out of this crisis led to another opportunity: repatriates. The quarantine measures enforced for those traveling from abroad led to an urgent need for lodging. This is most especially true when waves of our overseas Filipino workers were sent home due to the pandemic. Because of this, hotels opened their doors to our returnees. Although this arrangement is not as lucrative as having guests and events pre-pandemic, this has helped the industry recover in a way and rebuild itself. This is just one of the many examples where tourism is starting to adapt in this new normal. As time goes by, we learn to live with the pandemic. We find ways of surviving, adapting, and innovating at this time. The theme for this year's MOF celebration, OFs in the New Normal, Supporting Resilience Towards the Post-COVID Era, speaks for itself. We look forward to winning the battle against this disease, as we have seen how we as a nation were able to survive the different waves and mutations of the virus. With the latest strain, Omicron, we are hopeful that we can manage to stand victorious, as evident at the continuous decline of new cases despite the threat of the aggressive Delta variant. This has also shown the power of connectivity through online means. Through webinars and other online interactive platforms, we are able to do our business and other transactions while minimizing the threat of exposure to the disease. This also opened the doors to reconnect with people who we are not able to interact due to distance, and this opened opportunities to learn new insights and ideas that help in revolutionizing our current way of living. In last year's tourism webinar, we learned of the existing and future assistance and programs offered by the government and private sector to our OFs, such as capacity building and training programs, safety protocols, and others. We also learned of how several tourism opportunities, such as investments, livelihood, and employment for OFs. In today's webinar, we will discuss on travel and tourism-related programs and branding-related campaigns and activities. We shall also learn of new tourism opportunities at the new normal and online services available for OFs. We hope that this will be a venue to further highlight our Bayanihan spirit in uplifting our country back from the ashes due to the pandemic. ROFs are definitely a driving force in rebuilding our nation's tourism landscape. We also look forward to having a fruitful discussion with you. Thank you to all the IC members for their collaborative efforts, especially to the Department of Tourism in making this webinar possible. I would also like to extend our thanks to our speakers as well as the participants. For your information, the IACMOF has adopted with the new normal. We had resumed the conduct of our International Forum on Migration, which was held virtually last November 24, 2021 in Australia in partnership with the Philippine Embassy and the Philippine Overseas Labor Office in Canberra. And we will also be having our National Forum on Migration and the celebration of International Migrants Day online on December 17, 2021. We hope you can all join us. Once again, thank you very much and good afternoon.
Thank you, Ms. Carmelita G. Nuki, for sharing with us the significance of this celebration and the updates on our programs for the welfare of our kababayans. The holiday season is rapidly approaching, and we are looking forward to seeing Filipino families coming over to celebrate this joyous occasion. For us to feel the warmth of the love this season, here is a performance from our special guest, a church-based choir that also sings in various events outside the parochial church. The group also competes in different choral competitions. Let us give it up for Coro Jesu. A warm round of applause, please.
Joy to the world, the Lord has come. Let earth receive. Let every heart prepare room. And heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing. Joy to the earth, the Savior reigns. Let man their songs employ. From fields and floods, from seas and plains, repeat the song with joy, repeat the song with joy, repeat the sounding joy. Joy to the world, the Lord has come. Let earth receive her King. Let every heart prepare room, and heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing. Joy to the world, joy to the world.
Thank you for that wonderful performance, Coro Jesu. Before we proceed with our program, kindly sign up in our attendance sheet. You may scan the QR code to be flashed on the screen or the link to be provided in our chat box. You may also scan the other QR code for the flow of today's program. And now may I invite the Zoom participants to answer our poll questions. For today's poll, we have some questions and you may just select among the choices. So may I ask the technical for the poll questions? So for our first question, where are you currently located? So you may answer, are you within the Philippines, from Asia, from the Middle East, from Australia and the Pacific, from Americas, from Europe, or from Africa? Again, our first question is, where are you currently located? Let us wait for the others to click on their selection. All right, some few more participants to answer our poll question. Again, where are you currently located? For those asking in Facebook Live, our poll question only applies to those here in the Zoom. Okay, we're still waiting for the others to click on their answers. All right, we will end this poll for our first question. Okay, and let us show the results. So for our first question, most of our participants here are within the Philippines with 85%. 7% are from Asia. We also have some 4% from the Americas, 2% from the Australia and the Pacific, and 2% from Europe. Okay, thank you for your cooperation in answering our first poll question. Now let us look at our next question. Technical, please. Thank you. So the second question is, what industry are you in? Please key in your answers. Are you from tourism, from restaurant and food services, from domestic worker, from manufacturing, from healthcare, from construction, from retail, from information technology, accounting and legal, and others? For this question, we would like to know from where are our participants? From what industry are you in? Okay, let's wait for some few participants to key in their answers. For those in Facebook Live, you may also key in your answers by commenting under the Facebook Live video. All right, some few more participants are keying their answers. Okay, let's end this poll question number 2 and let's see the results. All right, 54% of our participants here in Zoom answered tourism as their industry. We also have 44% for the others and 2% for construction. Okay, thank you for your cooperation in answering our poll question number 2. And lastly, let us look at the third and last question. Have you seen any DOT advertisement or Philippine travel-related promotions? Example, TV ads, print materials, social media, etc. Okay, so have you seen any DOT advertisement from either the TV, in print, or in Facebook, Instagram, and others? Once again, for our participants in Facebook Live, you may also key in your answers by commenting on the video. Once again, our question is, have you seen any DOT advertisement or Philippine travel-related promotions in TV ads, print materials, and social media? Okay, some few more participants are keying their answers. All right, may I ask the technical to please end this poll and let us see the results. Okay, 92% of our participants here in Zoom answered yes, while there were some 8% who answered no. So there we have our poll questions. Thank you once again for your cooperation in answering our questions. Now at this point, let me introduce to you our moderator for today's program. Our moderator, she is a well-known journalist from the GMA network. Without further ado, let us welcome Ms. Susan Enriquez. Hello, Ms. Susan. May we ask you to please unmute? Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, DOT, for inviting me to host this important event for overseas Filipinos and migrants. To begin with, I will be providing a short overview of today's set of presentations and the panel discussion. First, there will be a series of presentations from our resource persons from the Department of Tourism and Commission on Filipinos Overseas, or CFO. After the presentations, we will proceed to the main highlight of the event, which is the panel discussion, where the participants may also join by raising questions, comments, and clarifications related to the travel and tourism programs for overseas Filipinos. The resource person that will present later are going to be part of the panel discussion and will be joined by other officials from the Department of Tourism in order for us to have a wide perspective and deeper understanding on the programs of the government for overseas Filipinos. We will also be requesting reactions of the representatives from the academic sector and non-government organization for overseas Filipinos, to be followed by a closing message from the OIC Undersecretary of the Tourism Development Sector. Lastly, of course, another song from Coro Jesus and dance number from the Indaklahi Cultural Folk Dancers. And without further ado, let's start the presentation proper. Our first presenter will discuss the tourism industry performance and tourism statistics for overseas Filipinos. She is currently the officer in charge of Statistics, Economic Analysis, and Information Management Division under the Office of Tourism Development Planning, Research, and Information Management of the Philippine Department of Tourism. Let us all welcome Ms. Manette Reyes, the OIC, Statistics, Economic Analysis, and Information Management Division, Department of Tourism. Good afternoon.
Thank you, Ms. Susan. Secretary Bernadette Romulo Puyat, Undersecretary Woodrow C. Makiling Jr., OIC Undersecretaries Verna C. Buensuceso and Christopher B. Morales, and Assistant Secretary Howard Lance A. Uyking. Ms. Carmelita G. Nuki of Philippine Migrants' Rights Watch, members of the Interagency Committee for the Month of Overseas Filipinos, DOD officials and employees, other members of the national government agencies, local government units, private stakeholders, academe, media partners, non-government organizations, and the participants of today's webinar. A pleasant afternoon to all. On behalf of the Office of Tourism Development Planning, Research, and Information Management, and the DOT Statistics team, I am pleased to present the tourism industry performance and tourism statistics for overseas Filipinos. Next slide, please. Today's presentation will be divided into 3 parts. First, presentation on the tourism industry performance covering the period 2016 to 2020. Then, I will be providing some of the important indicators from the 2020 Philippine Tourism Satellite Accounts, and lastly, the 2020 tourism statistics for overseas Filipinos. Next slide, please. Without a doubt, last year was very challenging for the tourism industry, being one of the sectors that have been greatly affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, the closing of borders, airports, and hotels, as well as travel restrictions, has impacted the lives of many. Let's take a look at the pre-pandemic statistics and the impacts of COVID-19 in the international visitor arrivals and inbound tourism receipts of the country. Next slide, please. From 2016 to 2019, the Philippines inbound tourism was very promising with a double-digit growth rate except for the year 2018. In 2019, we ended the year surpassing the 8.2 million international arrivals target of the National Tourism Development Plan, 2016 to 2022. With 8,260,913 total arrivals. Prior to the pandemic, the NTDP targeted 9.2 million international visitor arrivals in 2020. Based on the arrival departure cards from the Bureau of Immigration, the Philippines only received a total of 1,482,535 foreign visitors from January to December 2020, a decline of 82.05% from the 8,260,913 arrivals in the same period last year. Also, flash on the screen is the percent share of overseas Filipinos to the total international visitor arrivals from 2016 to 2020. Next slide, please. In January 2020, foreign visitor volume reached 796,164, an increase of 10.06% from the same month in 2019. The decline started in February with 462,681 arrivals, a drop of 39.67%. In mid-March, the Philippine government imposed a temporary ban on foreign inbound travelers. Fewer than 1,000 arrivals were recorded for April and below 6,000 from May to July. In August, a total of 18,330 arrivals was recorded. For each of the months from September to November, the arrivals were more than 10,000. A slight increase was observed in December, where the volume of arrivals reached 19,793. Next slide, please. Total receipts generated from inbound tourism from January to December 2020 recorded an estimated 82.24 billion pesos, a decrease of 82.94% from the visitor receipts of 482.15 billion pesos recorded in the same period last year. Next slide, please. The Philippine Tourism Satellite Accounts, or PTSA, is an annual compilation under the Macroeconomic Accounts Service of the Philippine Statistics Authority in partnership with the Department of Tourism as one of the major data sources in the development and updating of the PTSA. It aims to measure the contribution of tourism industries to the Philippine economy in terms of expenditures and other production accounts. Next slide, please. The contribution of tourism direct gross value added, or TDGVA, to the gross domestic product, or GDP, in 2020 is estimated at 5.4%. In Figure 2, the TDGVA amounted to 0.97 trillion pesos in 2020, down by 61.2% compared to 2.51 trillion pesos in 2019. Next slide, please. Inbound tourism expenditure contributed 2.9% share to the total exports in 2020. Expenditures of inbound visitors to the Philippines reached 132.59 billion pesos in 2020. This represents a 77.9% decrease from the 2019 level of 600.08 billion pesos. Next slide, please. On the other hand, domestic tourism expenditure accounted for a 4.1% share of household final consumption expenditure at current prices. Expenditures of domestic visitors in the Philippines reached 556.89 billion pesos in 2020. This figure dropped by 82.3% from the 2019 level of 3.1 trillion pesos. Next slide, please. Employment in tourism industries accounted for 11.9% of the total employment in 2020. About 4.7 million people are still employed in tourism industries, 18.1% lower compared to the 2019 levels. Next slide, please. Among the tourism characteristic industries, passenger transport, accommodation, and food and beverage, and miscellaneous had the highest share in employment among tourism industries. Next slide, please. For the last part of my presentation is about tourism statistics for overseas Filipinos. Based on the UNWTO International Recommendation for Tourism Statistics, or IRTS 2008, and the Philippine Statistics Authority's Survey of Overseas Filipinos report in 2019, and in the context of tourism, overseas Filipinos referring to the Philippine passport holder permanently residing abroad. And here are some of the available data from the arrival departure cards and the DOT's visitor sample survey. Next slide, please. Based on the 2020 demographic profile data, 43.78% of overseas Filipino visitors were male, while 54.92% were female. Others preferred not to state. In terms of civil status, 52.25% are single, 45.05% are married, and the remaining 2.70% are widowed. For the age bracket, the majority were from the 35 to 54 age group with 39.41% share, followed by 20 to 34 years old at 29.82% share, and 55 to 64 with 13.17% share. The majority of the overseas Filipino visitors are with college degree, with 90.09% share, Some 5.41% did not complete their college education, while 2.70% are secondary education graduates or may have taken the vocational studies. Less than 2% have their master's and or doctorate degree. In terms of occupational group, almost 15% are doing professional works. Some are working for clerical, sales, and other related services. Industrial workers and laborers, housewives, students, retired, and seafarers. Next slide, please. Concerning the travel characteristics, the majority take holiday as their main purpose of visit, followed by health and medical reason as their purpose for the coming to the Philippines. 86.49% of overseas Filipinos visitors stayed in the home of their relatives and friends. Around 35% stayed in hotels. Some stayed in resorts and apartels or rented homes. In terms of the average length of stay, approximately overseas Filipino visitors stayed in the Philippines for 10.58 nights. About the OFs or overseas Filipinos expenditures, each is spent around $57.26 per day. And based on the results of the visitor sample survey, the majority of overseas Filipinos visited Cebu, Pampanga, Davao, Bataan, Bulacan, Aurora, Boracay Island, Cagayan, Laguna, and Quezon. Next slide, please. This slide shows that majority of overseas Filipino visitors appreciated the warmth, hospitality, and kindness of people. They were able to see their loved ones, our beautiful sceneries, good food, and the Philippines as a good place for relaxation. That ends my presentation, and I hope that I was able to provide you with a brief yet comprehensive presentation on the tourism industry performance and statistics for overseas Filipinos. Thank you and have a good day.
Thank you, Ms. Manette, for the update on the tourism industry. The tourism's current status by the numbers showed how COVID-19 affected the tourism industry in general in terms of arrivals, receipts, and employment. Also, some of the information related to the overseas Filipino visitor regarding their profile, places visited, expenditures, among others. For the second presentation, we have a representative from the Commission on Filipino Overseas that will discuss the online registration system for the ease of travel of our fellow Filipinos, as well as other programs of CFO related to travel and migration. Our next presenter is the current Division Chief of the Migrant Integration and Education Division of the CFO. Her division is the unit primarily responsible for ensuring that Filipinos migrating to other countries are adequately prepared to meet the practical and psychological challenges attendant to international migration through the conduct of pre-departure registration, orientation seminars, and guidance and counseling. She also represents the CFO in discussions and fora, local and international, as a resource person on the areas of migration and development, migration management, diaspora engagement, financial inclusion, marriage migration, and human resource development, among others. She was also tasked to lead international projects for international migrants through migrants in countries in crisis and the ASEAN-Korean Migration Network project awarded by the US, European, and ASEAN countries. She has a degree in psychology and master's in public management development program through a scholarship grant from the Development Academy of the Philippines. Ladies and gentlemen, let's all welcome Ms. Ivy D. Miravalles, Director for Migrant Integration and Education Division, Commission on Filipinos Overseas. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Susan. Thank you for such a generous introduction. Maligayang Pasko sa'yo. Alright, maligayang Pasko at magandang araw din, Secretary Puyat, Mel Nuki, CFO's friend of the PMRW and the chair of IAC-MOF, to the family of DOT, the family of IAC-MOF, magandang araw sa inyong lahat. And on behalf of Secretary Acosta, I would like to extend how grateful we are that you gave us a chance to introduce the current developments of our frontline services at the Commission on Filipinos Overseas. So my slide, it won't be too long, will be divided into four segments. So the first one, I will be tasked to discuss the CFO clientele and the frontline services, and of course, the project implementation or the online service, and some of the anti-human trafficking initiative of the Commission, and of course, some of the improvements or ways forward set for this particular project. Okay, to give you a background, please refer to slide 3, please. Well, CFO is a government agency under the Office of the President, and since its establishment in the 1980s, we have been providing pre-departure services to migrants or Filipino immigrants or those with immigrant visa. We register them and we provide seminars to them through PDOS or counseling sessions or program. So next slide, please. The Batas Pambansa 79 requires that we create program activities to make sure that the welfare of this clientele are always observed. The Filipino permanent residents abroad, Filipinos who have not been naturalized overseas, Filipinos overseas who hold dual citizenship, Filipino spouses and other partners of foreign national or former Filipino citizen, descendants of Filipinos abroad, the youth overseas, exchange visitor program, and the Filipino au pairs. So kontra dun sa POEA and OWA, our clients are never workers overseas. So they are of different category pagdating sa kliyente. Okay, now what do we have now as a new? The next slide, number 4, shows you where we are situated. Actually, CFO has 3 offices, one in Manila, another one in Cebu, and then one in Davao. So we implement regularly seminars to buck or so many number of people. Every day we would have an average of 500 to 600 in our offices. So you can imagine what will happen to them at this time of pandemic if we continue doing that. Now, next slide, please. At the time before the pandemic, just to give you an idea, we've been registering migrants already. So kung makikita nyo, an average of 73 to 80,000 annually are Filipino immigrants or those holders of immigrant visa. So these are families, these are descendants of Filipinos abroad. Next slide, please. Apart from registration, a mandatory PDOS is conducted to them where they're taught about their travel regulations, immigration procedure, cultural differences, settlement concerns, employment issues, right and obligations. So they will have a seamless integration in the host country. So the top destination as usual is US and Canada. Next slide, please. Because of the different concern of the youth, CF also managed a peer counseling program for age 13 to 19 years old, where issues of anxiety, rejection, discrimination, among others, are being discussed before they leave the country. So, and of course, the one that is very, very specific only to CFO or the Philippine government is our conduct of pre-departure program for the marriage migrants. Here to prevent any abuse, domestic abuse, or any gender-based violence that can be experienced by any of the marriage migrants. They undergo a one-on-one mandatory counseling program and a group counseling program. This is also to ensure that the cultural issues are discussed during the counseling sessions. So we conduct the guidance and counseling program. We also have Europe-bound au pairs or youth. These are trainees or cultural exchange who will be leaving the country to participate in the home as being invited by host family for a year or some in 2 years, all expense paid. So after that, they will have to come back to the Philippines also. Before leaving the country, they must have attended the program and have registered with CFO. It is almost similar to this project where we take in about 7,000 annually, the exchange visitor program for the US. It's a cultural exchange program for the US. So you can imagine, no, pre-pandemic time, how many people are coming to CFO. Then the pandemic hits us. In March 2020, CFO has been very prepared. Now we have the online system, we had highly skilled IT, we have quality management system in place, we have resources, dedicated employees, and even client-focused agency. Yan ang ano namin, trust. So it was not so difficult for us to make a decision to transform our services online. Hence, of course, was implemented. Of course, means Overseas Filipino CFO online registration system. So this, of course, system will allow the client to access our frontline services online, even the webinar, the telecounseling, digital receipt that they can present to the Bureau of Immigration, and then register and then leave the country without coming to the office anymore. So just to give you siguro an idea of how it works, may I request the IT team to play the very short video for, of course. Parang walang sound. Okay, thank you very much for playing it. All right, so next slide, please. The of course, or the online system is client-centered and is sensitive to the need of every client. in a sense that there are different posters that they can click on depending on the service that they need from CFO. So if you would notice, there will be no more long line at the office needed. It's faster, it's easier because you can do it at your own home without going out. You can register, you can watch the online PDOS in your at the comfort of your home. At the same time, pay and wait for the digital certificate. Okay, slide 17, please. So we've been trying to implement this online system for quite a long time already because of those several reasons. Hindi lang siya sa pandemic. No, we've noticed that most of our clients are coming from far places or areas, and they do not have house in Manila or in our other offices. So it may be too costly for them to come and visit the CFO to register. It will lessen the expenses of registration. It will, the continued operation can happen even if there's a disaster like this, a more client-centered approach, and the readiness and availability of the system, even inside their own home. Okay, so moving on. Next slide, please. Okay, the system, of course, is not perfect yet. No, there are more improvements, no, that we want to do and continue improving the system. We are basing our observation through the client's customer satisfaction, the improved efficiency, and possible deduction of some steps to make it easier. And then improve also the use of the connectivity or interconnectivity. That is a big factor. And maximize the time of the personnel holding the management or managing the program. Moving on, please. The system comes with different report generation. So annually, daily, weekly, we can check out the following data from the system that was created by our IT support team. Okay, moving on to the next slide, please. Okay, so that's how the poster would look like for the PDOS, pink, for the au pair, red, and then there are more other posters found in our website for that. Next slide, please. Okay, after the implementation of the, of course, no, we continue implementing all the frontline services. We've conducted 4,300 counseling sessions to counselees. We migrated the program online. So instead of coming to the office, we do telecounseling, telephone counseling, or the Google Meet or the Zoom meeting for counseling in order for us to implement some of the welfare assistance for our marriage migrants. We've also managed to register over 10,000 from March 2020 to September 2021. So we've continued to operate despite the situation. Next slide, please. We've also been implementing the 7 modules online PDOS, where client can just watch per module and learn about the host country or a specific country of destination. And then after that, continue to register. Okay, some of the seminars were translated into webinars. Next slide, please. Another slide. Okay, so we've been, earlier I heard one speaker said that this is quite a dangerous a crisis situation, but out of the situation, we learn a lot of things. We get to interact with people that we haven't been interacting with because they're very far. But due to the use of technology, we can reach out to them now by simply creating or implementing webinars. Usapang Stateside, Usapang NC, Balitang Hapon. These are all stories of real migrants who have experienced the life in their host country from the very beginning until now that they are very successful, and they share it with the newcomers. So this is what we've been using to replace the actual PDOS. Next slide, please. Yes, and then we note that it's not enough that we do the webinar, but we have to find a utility for them to pay without coming out of their house. So we partnered with Bayan Center, GCash, etc., so they can pay also online. Next, please. Now, this is another advocacy of the Commission. they said that when the pandemic came in, there's another battle that is being handled silently by the victim. This is the increase in cyber sex crime. And it's true, it's not only in the Philippines. So the CFO, as the chair of the Advocacy Communication Committee of the Interagency Council Against Trafficking, continue to touch base with potential victims by coming up with series of seminar called Human Hindi Laruan Series. It's a webinar that tackles several things. It could be tourism, trafficking in the guise of tourism. It could be how to go what's outside the country properly as a worker. So paano hindi ba illegal recruit? So many webinars have been staged by the commission to combat this possible issue. We also have Kasal Hindi Sakal. That's our way to address domestic violence issues that we've been hearing among our overseas Filipinos and among our clientele. Next slide, please. Yeah, so we've noted that there are still cases ongoing. Despite the pandemic, these traffickers are also using this platform to victimize some of the Filipinos who are vulnerable. Next slide, please. Now, the government has been very proactive. In fact, recently, the president himself signed a Proclamation Order 1180. It's the National Anti-Trafficking in Person Awareness Month, which is going to be held every July. This is for us to have more time to encourage more stakeholders in the fight against trafficking and encourage more activities to fight against trafficking. I know we're celebrating the International Day Against Trafficking this December, but on top of that, we also have July as the National Anti-Trafficking in Person Awareness Month. And this is one of the recent accomplishments of the Advocacy Communications Committee of the AYACAN. Moving on, please. All right, this is another observation that we've had. We've noted that there are some cases of our marriage migrants, some fiancé and partner spouses who would be meeting at a third country for tourism. And of course, as mentioned earlier, we would like to be more proactive to prevent any trafficking, any more victims of this trafficking situation. So move on, please. Okay, so we've noticed that those are countries that this foreign national would bring the Filipino. They haven't met them in person, but they agreed to meet on this country or this area because of the lax border control. Because some of the countries have very, very strict border control when it comes to, because of the COVID situation. Next, please. Now, to combat that, as I said earlier, we tried to implement so many awareness programs. Kasal Hindi Kasakal, sex trafficking. Next, please. We also have the series of Crazy Little Tour Code Love. So we have the repeat also. The content of the seminar was just to forewarn them and at the same time talk to them about their rights and privileges, options, and of course counsel them on when is the best time to leave the country or how important it is to know the person you're meeting. Okay, so now, as I mentioned earlier, this project, which we're very proud of, is not perfect. So we continue to hear from our customer some of the requests. Next slide, please. Some of the clients are demanding still physical transactions. Of course, the internet connectivity has been an issue, not only with this project, and then the vulnerability to fraud. That's why we're trying to do something about this. And of course, the need to level up the standard level of agreement with some of the suppliers or providers. Yeah, at CFO, finally, second to the last slide, moving on, please. We note that the innovation is the ability to see change as an opportunity and not a threat. So we know we are in a very difficult situation, pero hoping is a learned skill. And we learned about it the whole year, 2 years that we're in COVID. And we managed to launch a project that we've long been wanted to launch because of this situation. So maraming salamat on behalf of us, the CFO family.
Thank you, Ms. Miravalles. Maraming salamat po for your detailed presentation on various programs of the Commission on Filipinos Overseas. We are hoping that the participants were able to capture the important information related to the functions of CFO, as well as the available programs and activities implemented by your office promoting the welfare of the Filipinos overseas. For our third and last presentation for today's webinar, our resource person will tackle the current tourism-related campaign and programs of the Department of Tourism, especially now that we are in a pandemic and international travel is currently not permitted. Our third presenter has been in the field of marketing for 9 years, a graduate of Communications Technology Management at the Ateneo de Manila University. He started his career in the telecommunications industry, developing products and communication campaigns for SunSmart and Globe. In 2016, he started a career in public service under the Presidential Communications Operations as the Branding and Communications Head of the ASEAN 2017 Chairmanship of the Philippines. He eventually became the Director of the Bureau of Communication Services to promote the programs and projects of the administration. In October 2018, he was appointed as Assistant Secretary for Branding and Marketing Communications for the Department of Tourism and relaunched the It's More Fun in the Philippines campaign with a focus on environmental and cultural sustainability. Let's all welcome Assistant Secretary Howard Lance Uy-King, Branding and Marketing Communications of the Department of Tourism. Magandang hapon po, Asik Uy-King.
Magandang hapon po. It is, of course, an honor to be introduced by none other than Ms. Susan Enriquez.
Thanks, sir.
Good afternoon, Secretary Berna, my colleagues, and everyone present here in this webinar, as well as those watching online. Thank you for inviting me to share the DOT's promotional and marketing campaigns for overseas Filipinos. Balikbayans have always been a big part of the tourism industry, especially during the holiday season. It's homecoming season, reuniting with not only your loved ones, but also our beloved tourist spots. Before I talk more about our Balikan ang Pilipinas campaign, I'd like to start with our current global campaign that's building the excitement for the eventual reopening of borders to foreign nationals. So this global campaign is called More Fun Awaits. And as the name implies, there's so much to look forward to in the Philippines as we prepare for the resumption of inbound travel.
Every day, the Philippines does more than wait. Putting together new adventures. And experiences for you to try. We're making our sites better for you to see. Cooking up new dishes for you to taste. And preparing cultural discoveries for you to feel. And we're not stopping. Because we know that you deserve more. We can't wait to welcome you.
So a campaign is nothing without a good product. And I'm happy to share that we have over 40 tourism circuits that are ready to be experienced by travelers across the country. Our tourism circuits span cities, municipalities, provinces, and even regions. They are guided by a theme, whether they are ecotourism, community-based circuits, pilgrimage tours, biking circuits, faith, art, adventure, and the range of products and destinations is meant to diversify our product offerings. These were also based on a study that we conducted with the Asian Institute of Management that said that Filipinos prefer open air, nature-based, and healthy activities. The development of products and circuits is a continuing process. Today, we have more than 70 in development. Indeed, much more fun truly awaits us here in the Philippines. These new tourism circuits and products will be launched following their validation and test runs with our tour operators to ensure viability of products and packages. Side by side with these circuit development activities is the formulation of a product development manual to guide the local government to undertake product development activities in the respective areas of jurisdiction. This is, of course, in preparation for the devolution of this function to the LGUs next year. These circuits have become our stories to tell for our audience all over the world. We have partnered with close to 100 foreign publications, websites, and content creators to make our products and sites more searchable through articles and features spanning more than 10 languages. As of November 22, 2021, we have a total of 906 media pickups from international media that have a reach of 443 million from key opportunity and emerging markets. But the content is not limited to just writing. Some of our partners have also made visual listicles and videos to promote our attractions and even our culture. So here's a short video that's in development by a Russian website as they try out our food. For our host, maybe we can cut off the video after 1 minute.
Люблю вкусно покушать. Я думаю, что по мне, наверное, это занятие.
У меня блог про еду, о котором вы точно слышали.
Очень люблю готовить, а еще больше люблю есть.
Это что-то похожее на наши фаршированные блинчики.
Кто не любит блинчики?
Выглядит интересно.
Внутри это больше похоже, наверное, на какой-то салат.
И он сладкий, это непонятно.
Я бы точно добавила немножко остроты.
Это совсем не похоже на масленицу в нашем понимании.
Я бы такой ел, наверное, на завтрак.
Такие чудесные, овощные, сладенькие блинчики.
А внешне выглядит красиво.
Тут очень много овощей.
Это лук. Это лук.
Классный, рыбный, свежий.
Это вкусно.
Я впервые встречаю баклажан в супе.
Okay, I think we can cut it off already. So, ganun ka-native yung videos namin. Walang subs for the Russians, but I think you can tell from their facial expressions that they really like our cuisine. So, a campaign is not really complete na kung puro local publications lang. So we have our big guns. We've partnered with CNN to create features promoting tourism circuits in different regions across the country, including site takeovers and digital banners. It's the same with Nat Geo, and true to their brand, they focus more on the flora and the fauna side of the Philippines. Condé Nast has also been a very influential partner, especially when it comes to high-value markets. We've made sure that they talk about our lesser-known destinations in order to spread out the visitors. So we have CNBC as well for luxury travelers, BBC for the European market, and they've made great write-ups of our landscapes, traditions, and cultures. We've also finally created food content with BuzzFeed through its food content vlog, Tasty, that has over 96 million followers. Complementing this is Disney. So we partnered with Disney for their Mickey Go Philippines campaign. So here's a short clip of our Mickey-fied Ilocos empanada. And finally, email marketing through travel dailies, hundreds of thousands of tourist leads. So we've already created some YouTube ads that lead directly to our morefunawaits.com website. So this is our ad for the Western market. And here's for the Asian market.
I still remember it all too well. Me, finding myself when I found you. You held me when waves were rushing. Carried me when heights were overwhelming. Assured me when I was scared of falling. And found me when I was out searching. But now the world is on hold. Let me relive our memories and retell our discoveries. As I watch you come to life again, restore while I dream of your beauty. Recover while I buckle up for our new journey. Heal to your heart's content, then we'll come find each other again.
So all of these content or ads lead us to the website. So the website, morefunawaits.com, contains all the information from articles to infographics, pictures, and videos to convince you that truly more fun awaits in the Philippines. So please read up on it while our borders are closed for foreign tourists. And now, we're back to our main campaign for our Balikbayans, aptly named Balikan ang Pilipinas. So, Balikan ang Pilipinas is a tourism recovery campaign focused on promoting our local destinations to our Balikbayans and encourage them to come home for the holidays. Last year, in light of the unpredictability of the COVID-19 virus, many chose to postpone going home. But with our protocols more streamlined and our vaccination rates vastly improving, especially after the government's Bayanihan Bakunahan, which administered 2.5 million doses, travel is now finally possible again. Migrant workers and business travelers can now plan trips home to the Philippines with less quarantine measures and a clear way back to the countries where they work. Now, as I mentioned earlier, a brand or campaign is useless without its products. So this is why we've worked with several of our stakeholders to bring you exciting deals this holiday season. All of our deals are housed in our website, balikan.ph, which is still in development, but will be up maybe by next week. So abangan nyo yun. Balikan.ph is a one-stop shop platform for our Balikbayans featuring different tour packages, hotels and promos, and flight deals targeted for our returning brothers and sisters. In the coming days, we will be putting up more tour packages across the country. We will be coordinating with the Philippine Tour Operations Association next week to enhance the current offers. These tours reflect the tourism circuits that we have developed, so finally our Balikbayans can now experience what fun awaits back here at home. We always make sure that the establishments and the websites that we will be boosting on social media and digital are all accredited to ensure the safety of everyone. We will be coordinating with both the Philippine Hotel Owners Association and the Hotel and Sales Marketing Association for more enticing offers. Our DOT-accredited accommodation establishments offer a wide array of accommodation packages for our balikbayans. And last but not least, our flight deals. We met with different airlines such as AirAsia, Sebpac, and Philippine Airlines to discuss the Balikan ang Pilipinas campaign and encourage them to come up with exclusive deals or promos for balikbayans. So here are a few examples of their promos which are already on the market. So to the balikbayans watching this webinar now, we urge you to grab and avail of these deals before they run out. So our campaign doesn't end with Balikan ang Pilipinas. Once you've arrived home safely, it's our job to ensure that your travels here are hassle-free. So our campaign called Have a Safe Trip Pinas has been ongoing, not only to promote our local destinations, but to communicate our health and safety guidelines in travel as well, including the entry protocols that differ depending on the area that you're planning a trip to. So through our social media platforms, we have been constantly updating the information per province to reflect the ever-changing protocols of our destinations. Of course, these are made with the safety and protection of our travelers in mind. Some places will require an RT-PCR test, while some will waive that requirement if you're fully vaccinated. So through the Tourism Promotions Board, we have also developed the Travel Philippines app, which also contains this information. The app also enables you to store your precious documents, such as your Vax cards and your QR codes, in digital form to spare you the inconvenience of rummaging through your cell phone gallery when you go to checkpoints. So the app is available in both Google Play and Apple Store. We also have our website, philippines.travel/safetrip, which contains information on important IATF updates, the requirements and entry protocols for each reopened destination, and inbound travel advisories. So like all our other content, these are updated weekly depending on the development from the LGUs and the IATF. But the landscape of local travel is much better now compared to the previous year. We have been promoting the wonderful attractions of reopened places all over the country. And we have been cooped up for quite some time. So it is our hope that these images of our beautiful destinations will inspire you to travel locally again. We've been working with content creators over at YouTube to show that traveling can still be safe and fun as long as you follow the minimum health and safety protocols. In the coming weeks and months, you can expect a number of our campaigns that the DOT will pursue. We will be all out in promoting workation or long stay vacations. The allure of provincial life is real as long as you have stable internet connection. It's an escape from traffic jams and the high cost of urban living. We will also be launching our new reality show focused on our food. Abangan yung pagbabalik ng isang famous actress, especially sa mga 90s kids dyan na nanonood ngayon. And last but not least, farm tourism. We've noticed that people have been seeking refuge in our farm tourism sites. So it's about time we put this product in the mainstream market. More people need to experience the freshness of the air and food. And most importantly, you will get to know the people who have been tirelessly harvesting the ingredients for your daily meals. So I'd like to end my presentation with our latest ad, which was produced by the Tourism Promotions Board. To all our balikbayans watching, alam naman nating lahat na it's more fun in the Philippines. Pero ang hindi nyo alam is miss na miss rin kayo ng mga tourist spots natin. Kaya bumalik na kayo at bumisita dahil ang masasabi ko lang is that the Philippines is more fun with you.
Sabik sa'yo. isipan panaginip, bawat pagdiin ng nadana. Hanap-hanapin ka, hanap-hanapin ka, sabik sa'yo.
Thank you.
Nagutom ako sa mga pagkain at biglang talaga na paano, parang kilala ko yung aso na yun. Anyway, thank you Asik Highway Oy King for the presentation on the DOT's efforts, syempre to continuously promote the countries amidst the pandemic and continuously plan and innovate to recover the tourism industry by promoting the local destinations to our domestic travelers and balikbayans while ensuring our safety, their safety. Ayan. So, doon po sa ating mga kababayan, uwi na kayo. Uwi muna kayo para mas ma-experience nakakatakam yung mga pagkain Pinoy talaga. Anyway, we would like to invite our Zoom and Facebook Live participants to actively participate in the panel discussion and open forum. For the main highlight of today's webinar, may we again invite Asik Highway Oy King and Ms. Ivy Miravalles to join us in the panel discussion. Also with us in today's webinar is Undersecretary Woodrow Makiling Jr. He is the Regional Director of the DOT National Capital Region and concurrently the OIC Assistant Secretary for Tourism Development, but recently appointed by President Rodrigo Duterte as Tourism Undersecretary. Yan, si Yusek Woodrow Makiling, who will be joining us also today. And of course,
Hi, Ma'am Susan.
Hi, sir. Good afternoon po. And also with us is OIC Undersecretary Tourism Regulation Coordination and Resource Generation, Engineer Christopher Morales, designated as the OIC Undersecretary for Tourism Regulation Coordination and Resource Generation concurrent. With this, he is also, ang importante itong role niya, Program Director of the National Farm Tourism Program of the Department. Napakataas ng interest ng mga kababayan natin dyan sa farm tourism, lalo na sa panahon na ito na gusto mo magtanggal talaga ng anxiety, di ba? Laki bagay yung tama yung sinabi kanina ni Asik Highway Oy King. Pag nasa farm tourism ka, makikita mo yung yung paano yung effort na ibinibigay ng bawat isa para makapag-produce ng pagkain na ihahapag sa ating mga hapagkainan. Okay? So we will start with our panel discussion and open forum. Okay. We'll get our questions. Well, okay. I have an anonymous question for Miss Ivy Miravalles. Ma'am Ivy, what is the importance for migrants and immigrants to attend the CFO's frontline services?
Thank you, Susan. Oo, importante yan because it's our way. It's the government way of preparing migrants to travel and to have a seamless na integration in the host country. So marami dyan na mga travelers na first-timer talaga na haven't even tried riding a plane. So yun na lang simpleng airport procedure, they have to be guided also. Because at the same time, there are privileges and rights of an immigrant that they have to be coached also. So when they arrive in the host country, they know what to do. And finally, yung data kasi nila, the last known information about them before leaving the country, is very critical also in coming up with policy para sa atin executive and legislative branch policy that would improve the lives of the migrants. Tulad nito, di ba? Every now and then there are laws created for them. So that would be very helpful. The dual citizenship law, anti-trafficking law, those are based on the data that they left us.
Mhm,
But more than that, it's the registration and the preparation sa psychological at saka yung kanilang readiness to travel overseas.
Okay. Ms. Ivy, I have 2 more questions for you. CFO is one of the anti-trafficking advocates. Being a member of IACAT, what are the programs and services to help prevent more victims in trafficking situation?
Oh, I'm glad that you asked that. It's very timely because December is the International Day Against Trafficking celebration then. So, ang CFO is the chair of a very active advocacy communication committee of the council. Yung council kasi it was created by a law. It's made up of the head of different mga secretaries that meets on a regular basis to discuss about policy issue, operational issue, ng how we combat human trafficking. So doon, in the IACAT, CFO plays the chair of the Advocacy and Communications Committee. One of the major work of the CFO is to provide awareness program to different sectors. Hindi lang publication, of course we have those, but we have to also make sure that we reach out from north to south, different sectors, and teach them how to recognize trafficking and how to report cases. And then we also are tasked to supervise the 24/7 hotline or action line of the Philippine government. It's called 1343 action line, where the victim, survivor, or yung family nila or the general public can report cases of human trafficking activities. So we oversee the phone calls and the Facebook reports and some of the messages sent to us also by the general public. So as earlier kanina when I made the presentation, if you would notice, there are webinars created specifically. Yung Human Hindi Laruan series. The objective is to create awareness of public, like community education program about the dangers of human trafficking and its different forms. We work with other stakeholders, awareness program. It's very important that we work with non-government organizations, government organization, and even the academe, the media. We even have some media training also. Thank you, Susan.
Yeah, and one last question para din sa ito, Ma'am Ivy. How can the Filipino community and other agencies help protect the welfare of Filipino migrants?
Good. Filipinos kasi wherever we are, we have this bayanihan spirit. Sa totoo lang. There are a lot of problematic cases that were able to overcome their situation because they help each other. Marami tayong mga overseas Filipinos that on their own they got resources, yung iba naghingi, and then they help out those who are in need during the time of COVID. So I hope we could continue that bayanihan spirit that whenever there will be in a parang distressful situation, they continue to provide support, whether it's a home, needed a temporary shelter, o kaya naman advice, or yung makakain, regular na makakain. Kasi marami tayo niyan eh. In fact, there's a Facebook na may mga posting ang CFO recognizing the diaspora in action. Some Filipino communities leaders and members helping out in their own way during the time of pandemic. Yung iba, they sponsored some swabbing. Yung iba, they sponsored some food provision for those who have lost their jobs. So some provided psychological assistance through counseling, and some provided support to nurses also. So madami, we have full of that.
Okay, we have question and then anybody can answer from our panelists. What are the new technologies employed by the Philippine government in easing government-related transactions for overseas Filipinos? This is open for everybody. You can answer, everyone can answer this question, sir.
Susan?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, just briefly lang for our returning overseas Filipinos. I think one thing is really easy right now is we have this onehealthpass.com.ph. So for all returning overseas Filipinos, they just have to access that. Just type it, www.onehealthpass.com.ph. And it's already there, lahat ng requirements papuntang Pilipinas, either RT-PCR, even if you want to book your testing hotel, you want to book your testing lab, pagdating dito sa Pilipinas, andyan na lahat. So that's one thing innovative created by the DOH and the BOQ together with the one-stop shop of the management of returning overseas Filipinos. So that has made everybody's lives, easier coming home. Kasi it's just one there. Everything is there. Just register. You get your QR code upon arrival in the Philippines at the airport. Then you just have to go through, and all the requirements are there. The processes are there, so it's a lot easier.
So
and booking your hotels.
Parang mas maganda bago sila magplano talaga is yung sinasabi mo, i-fill up muna nila para less hassle.
Yes, definitely, ma'am. Like before because they cannot board until they have that. So they have to really fill it up a day or two prior to their departure from their home country, originating country.
Tapos, Ma'am Susan, nabanggit na rin kanina.
Yusek Morales, sir.
I'm clear ba? I'm clear?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Nabanggit na kanina ni Asek Howie doon sa presentation, no? If the kababayan natin balikbayan ay planning to do domestic travel then after nila makauwi, meron naman available yung DOT through TPB, yung Travel Philippines app natin na nabanggit ni Asek. And also, it's also in sync with the SPAS management ng mga LGUs. Kung ano yung mga iba't ibang requirements din ng LGUs, makikita din natin doon. So, pero ang pinakamaganda talaga sa kung yung mga magta-travel locally, nila yung lagi update yung LGU website and then also yung para hindi kasi every now and then nababago no?
Naiiba-iba especially now we have this yung mga alert level di ba? So pwedeng dito sa pinanggalingan mo alert level 2, pupuntahan mo alert level 3. So iba ang requirements.
Ngayon medyo lahat tayo alert level 2 na. Pero different LGUs has different confidence ng pagtanggap sa mga tourists natin, especially kung yung mga balikbayan. So mas okay makikita nila yung up-to-date requirements based on these applications din naman.
Asek, sir.
Nakikipag-coordinate with us sa regional operations, ina-update lagi yun sa website natin and also sa Philippines.travelsafe-trip na.
Asek, Uching, would you like to add some more doon sa mga sinasabi natin para yung ating mga kababayan talaga umuwi kayo sa Pilipinas?
Siguro i-promote ko na lang ulit. But this is for next week pa naman yung balikan.ph website. So, kesa isa-isahin yung mga offers, lahat na po ng offers by then will be there. So, to discounted po lahat, especially na yung bagong protocols natin ngayon, mas tumagal lang ng additional 2 days. So these discounts and packages will really help yung mga balikbayans natin this holiday season. Salamat po, Miss Susan.
Yes, yes, this is for Yusek Makiling. What are the latest updates daw on travel protocols for overseas Filipinos and international travels, if there are? Kung may aside from those sa binanggit mo kanina, sir.
Oh, thanks, ma'am. I think na-mention lang briefly ni Asek Howie na additional tayo ng 2 days right now for the protocol. Well, it used to be like if you're fully vaccinated and you have the RT-PCR negative result upon arrival to the Philippines, then you only quarantine for 3 days. Then you get a swabbing, tapos out ka na sa hotel. But right now, based on the last meeting with Yusek Chris with IATF, I think that increased already to 5. And then for the unvaxxed, naging 7. Tama ba, Yusek Chris?
That's correct. The bagong requirement before, we are allowing OFWs to choose kung magpa-negative RT-PCR before travel 72 hours. Ngayon mandatory na because of the additional measures na ginagawa ng IATF para yung patuloy yung pagbaba ng mga kaso dito sa loob ng bansa. So from 5 to 7 nga, yung sabi ni Yusek RR kanina. And yun, mandatory ang RT-PCR before travel sa ngayon.
Okay, this is for you, Sec Morales, sir. Ito, ano daw yung mga open tourism destinations natin?
Marami na ngayong nag-open na ng mga tourist destinations. So,
nadagdagan pa?
Pwede na po si Asek Howie sa pag-update. Nabanggit na rin niya kanina sa presentation. Iba may mga destination na vaccination card lang. Or fully vaccinated lang ina-accept like Baguio City, ang Romblon, ang Guimaras, Samal Island, and General Santos City. Meron namang lugar na karamihan sa mga open destinations, in lieu of RT-PCR, pwede yung vaccination card. So may option. So marami dyan, buong Region 1 na andyan, Ilocos Norte, Ilocos Sur, Pangasinan, ang Nueva Ecija, Pampanga, Aurora, yung mga sikat na lugar, Camiguin, El Nido, Palawan, Puerto Galera, Boracay, Bacolod City, Bukidnon, Misamis Oriental, and Occidental. And marami pa. You can look at our website. Meron din namang mga wala nang requirements, no? Talagang totally very confident yung mga LGUs to accept tourists like in Lapu-Lapu City, ang Samar, and also Davao region. So, depende pa rin sa level talaga ng confidence ng mga LGU chief executive para. Pero nabanggit din kanina sa presentation na from last year until nung early this year and now, talagang mas dumami na. And marami na activities tayo na kikita from different tourist destinations natin.
Okay, this is for Yusek Makiling and Yusek Oiking. Kayo muna siguro pwede sumagot. What are the strategic initiatives of the DOT to support the market development activities?
Well, basically, our presence has always been felt across the world. We never stopped, even as, nag-lockdown tayo sa Pilipinas. I think the team of Asek Howie and the Tourism Promotions Board and all our attachés across the world has, they have never stopped, making our presence felt talaga. So all these fairs, which can be elaborated later on by Asek Howie, we've always been there. Para, top of the mind pa rin tayo once they're able to travel. Hopefully sana yung December 1 na we're ready for the foreign tourists sana. Kaso na-suspend yun because of the Omicron variant of concern. No? But the thing is, we are always top of the mind sa mga foreign tourists natin. They can't wait to come back. In fact, we've won a lot of awards, international awards. Recently, yes, Asia's best diving destination and Asia's leading beach destination and so on and so forth. So these are all efforts that have been undertaken, led by the Secretary Berna Rawalupuyat, and of course at the office of Asek Howie.
Asek Oiking, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Susan. Tama po si Yusek RR. Madami na pong talagang gustong bumalik dito sa Pilipinas at magbisita, lalo na yung mga foreign travelers who already actually have booked tickets already, advanced tickets. Now, aside from market development, pinaka-importante rin yung product development, and yung credit dito goes to the offices of Yusek RR and Yusek Chris, who have been making new circuits. So, hindi lang po sa isang lugar. Madami pong iba't ibang provinces or cities, municipalities, tapos iba-iba rin yung mga products na may experience dito sa tours. Now, important po to because right now, yung behavior ng ating mga tourists, hindi lang puro weekend getaways. So, medyo nagla-long stay na po sila. And so, they can experience more of our country dito sa mga bagong circuits na nabuo natin.
Okay, yung next question natin, pwede sumagot dito anybody from DOT, no? What are the coordination activities among other government agencies and local government units related to the implementation of domestic tourism program? Anybody from Yusek?
Maybe Yusek Chris from the regional operation.
Yung Ma'am Susan, yung coordination in terms of protocols and guidelines. So, we're always in contact with the different local government units with regard to compliance to our minimum standard health and safety protocol, especially sa pag-accredit ng mga hotels and accommodation establishments. Isa yun, And likewise, yung coordination, lalo na kung may mga municipality or inter-province na mga circuit na binubuo ang mga regional offices, kailangan parang in sync yung magiging policy ng isang probinsya sa isa. Kung hindi, baka mamaya i-quarantine naman ng isang probinsya. So yan yung isa sa mga sample na ginagawa na coordination with them. And so to ensure din yung safety nung dapat consistent din yung protocols, at least at the regional level, consistent yung protocols natin just to ensure yung safety ng mga travelers. Second, para din ma-ensure din yung safety ng mga kababayan natin. Meron tayong tinatawag na safety SEAL team sa national government, and pinamumunuan ito ng DTI. Kasama dito ang DOT, ang DOLE, ang DILG, kung saan tinitingnan natin yung pagsunod ng mga establishments ng iba't ibang establishments sa minimum health and safety. Katulad nung sa proper number ng mga capacity ng mga taong pwede, proper ventilation. Ang toka ng DOT, syempre primary tourism enterprise, which is yung accommodation and hotel accommodation resorts. DTI, although may DOT accredited restaurants, pero in general DTI will cover yung yung sa restaurants, and DILG, marami sa DILG other establishments or facilities na tinitingnan. Iniisa-isa yon kasi isa siya sa mga nagiging incentives ng mga enterprises natin kung saan nadadagdagan yung capacity pag may safety seal, plus 10% ka sa capacity mo. So, kailangan in-sync din yung iba't ibang national government and also the local government in standardizing yung mga tinitingnan natin na mga requirements nila. And siguro third yung sa BACCERT. So, you heard naman yung sa BACCERT PH. Ito yung isang way para mapakita na authenticated yung vaccination mo, the DICT, the DOH, and DFA is leading this technical working group with the different national government agencies para magkaroon ng reciprocity with other countries na pag tinanggap namin yung iyong vaccination certificate ng isang country, dapat tanggapin mo rin. So para at least maging seamless din yung travel natin palabas, at the same time yung mga uuwi din, at maging seamless na at ma-ensure din naman na talagang yung mga tao is totally vaccinated. So on the works to, inaayos maigi to ng team, the different interagency team para mas lumawak lalo na sa mga OFWs natin, kasi para hindi na kung ano yung mga documents, mas mapadali na sana yung documentary requirements na hindi. I don't know if USEC RR and ASEC how we can add to that.
Well, basically, thank you, Yusek. I just wanted to emphasize, Susan, na it's really the local government unit ang may mandato talaga kung bubuksan nila, kung anong klaseng mga entry protocols. It's really them. DOT mainly, like we promote, we push, to synchronize all your requirements, but it's really up to the local government chief executive and the local government units to as to when they will let us enter, as to how they will let us enter, as to something like that. So, but we, the secretary has continuously called all our local chief executives to harmonize and synchronize all, especially if you're located in one region. Para, we encourage more domestic travel because that's the only way to go, especially with Omicron right now. I think our Filipino brothers and sisters are not so keen on traveling abroad right now. So they are looking to our islands, they're looking to our destinations here, probably staycations in the metro. So a more synchronized, harmonized entry protocol would be far better and will certainly encourage domestic travel, and people will spend, economy will roll, etc., etc.
Okay, ASEC, okay, would you like to add some more?
Actually, nasabi na po ni Yusek Chris at ni Yusek RR lahat. Gusto ko lang siguro ulitin yung payo ni Secretary Berna lagi that we must not be too overconfident, kahit na vaccinated tayo, we must always keep our guard up, especially ngayon na may Omicron variant na. So wag lang tayo magpabaya when traveling in our destinations kasi maganda na yung momentum natin ngayon.
Yeah. This question is for everybody. Siguro kuhanin muna natin ang dito masasabi ni Miss Ivy, How can overseas Filipinos contribute in supporting the Philippine tourism industry, Miss Ivy?
Hello. Yes. Actually, sabi ko nga masyadong friendly ang mga Pilipino at may bayanihan spirit. So, on a regular basis, may mga, may mga activities So what we saw earlier, the several videos presented, I was so surprised kasi ang ganda. Lahat may appeal sa emosyon, may hugot. Perhaps we can provide the post, the embassy and consulates, nung kopya ng mga video, and you can instruct to share it to the Filipino community leaders and members so they can share it also in their activities para naman maengganyo yung mga pamilya nila. Hindi lang yung asawa, may mga anak na rin yan. In fact, kami, we continue to implement yung U-Lead in the diaspora namin, pero sa online webinar din. So they need to know more about how beautiful the Philippines is. So, pakashare na lang yung ganong klase ng content ng video. Para in all formal and non-formal gathering ng Filipino community, lagi siyang available. Lagi siyang share. On our part, we will take part also by sharing it to siguro the seminars that we provide, encouraging them to watch the video also and share it to their family and their friends. Plus, of course, the social media platform, quite very effective now if we utilize it more. Salamat.
Sila, Yusek Makiling and Yusek Morales, Asek Uiking, sa tingin nyo, because of this, itong nangyayari nga ngayon, kasi di ba parang dapat marami nang uuwi because of this Omicron, mukhang medyo maho-hold yung plano ng iba to go home and enjoy the Philippines. So how can they help para mas kahit paano, kahit hindi sila makauwi, makatulong sila doon sa ating tourism industry?
Should I go first?
Yes, yes, sir. Yes, Yusek Makiling.
Our OFWs are our, living ambassadors across the world. They represent us, our culture, our heritage. So they keep, when they're abroad, as always, ito yung masasabi ko, Ma'am Susan, pag nasa abroad tayo, mas industrious. Mas, mas magaling yung Pinoy pag nasa abroad, talagang very, nagpa-follow ng rules talaga. So they just keep on, selling the country by, making the best and representing the best of the Filipino culture wherever they are across the world. So when they're, and just keep on showing probably all or sharing all the posts ng DOT, siguro they share it on their Facebook kasi everybody's on social media right now. So yun, I think that's the reason why. And you know what? Surprisingly, kung madaming umuwi dito ng mga OFWs, ang daming OFWs na outbound ngayon, Ma'am Susan. I am at the airport frequently, kasi that's one of my areas also. Talagang ang daming, we call it on-signers, paalis ng bansa at nagtatrabaho pa din. So parang, they are back here, but I think madami ding lumalabas. So yun lang. Keep on promoting and pushing for our island destinations. And I think in due time, it's only a matter of time that all their friends abroad are able to enter the country once again.
Yusek Morales, sir.
Ako, siguro, kung si RR kanina, mention na sila yung ambassador natin. Sa akin naman, since regional operations ang hawak ko, kung makakauwi naman sila, mamasyal na sila ngayon sa ating mga destinations and sa mga bagong circuit and mga bagong lugar na na-identify na natin na present ni Asek Howie. And yun namang quarantine natin is just 5 days. No? So kung matagal-tagal naman sila dito, at least maikot nila at may kwento ulit paglabas ulit ng bansa natin, may kwento nila yung mga bago at masasarap na mga pagkain, mga magandang lugar tulad ng farm tourism natin, Ma'am Susan. At pwede naman din sila mag-invest if they want, no? They also want to join the tourism industry. We do also training there. Nagbibigay ng training sa Balikbayani sa turismo na program ng OIMD natin. So if they want to join the tourism industry workforce, pwede namin silang tulungan. Matatrain natin sila. And they can also invest in farm tourism kasi karamihan niya sa mga yan, may mga farm alam ko farm and konting development lang, connect natin sa DA, and then once it's developed na, usual na pwede nilang pagbakasyonan pag uwi dito, and then kung may mga activities na ma-develop, iti-train natin sila, tapos then we market them. Yun naman main mandate naman ng DOT, yung i-promote and market din naman yung mga magandang destinations natin. So I think may magandang opportunity sa kanila for the tourism industry.
ASEC King, sir.
Yes, more on the communication front naman, no. Importante na yung mga OFWs natin at OFs are stay informed sa yung tamang balita when it comes to our protocols. Iwasan natin yung fake news kasi I think there are a number of people, nakita namin sa mga messages and comments, na akala nila close tayo sa Balikbayans. We're actually open, no? And aside from that, no, sa mga nandito na at nagta-travel na, i-share nyo lang sa social media, no? Pakita nyo sa buong mundo na it's still safe, it's still fun traveling around the country.
Okay. Asek, meron dito yung what are the statistical data DOT is sharing in your website or other platform? Do you have that?
We can upload po yung mga statistics na present ni Ms. Manette dito po sa tourism.gov.ph website namin. So ito po yung government website having all the information when it comes to yung mga press releases, mga statistics natin. Iba po yung marketing website pa natin po na Philippines na Travel. Ito naman more on promoting our destinations.
Ito may nagtatanong ngayon, when can we have a job in tourism? Because of this prevailing situation, siguro yung mga nawala, di ba, nawala ng trabaho and hoping to work sa tourism industry, masasagot nyo ba ito? Yusek Makili, may makaka-employ ka ba ng tao dyan? Si Yusek Morales and si Asek King, kailan daw, when can we have a job in tourism?
Alam mo ma'am, no, sinasabi nga kanina, Boracay last month, merong 34,000 guests already in the island. And just this month or November, nag-double, di ba, Yusek Chris, naging 60,000 plus. And it's only a matter of time, naging 150,000 yan siguro by this December. So if you can see, more and more destinations are already opening up already. So more people are, needed in that as tourism workers. And I think it's just important na yung nagtatanong dyan, make sure na fully vaccinated siya. Para once that particular available job andyan na, then she can be one of the first in line talagang tatanggapin. Just make sure you're ready, you're skilled. All our webinars are all free. Make sure you are retooled, you're skilled, para when you are called to work back again, it's only a matter of time. Hang on there. Makakatrabaho ka rin, babalik din tayo dyan.
This is for Ma'am Ivy. Do we have a dedicated centralized website on overseas Filipino statistics po? Meron po nagtatanong.
CFO has been updating this administrative data for the permanent residents. So they can visit our website and then there's a portion there that says statistics. Pwede po silang tumingin doon. On top of that, meron din kami, Susan, na yung Balikbayan portal. Para rin ito doon sa mga gustong uuwi or gusto mag-engage into several opportunity in the Philippines. Balikbayan is an online portal for diaspora engagement na ginawa ng CFO. Meron kaming partnership with different LGUs. You can visit the website. It talks about overseas Filipino youth, overseas workers, migrants, even the retirees. So it comes with statistics also. But for the statistics na on a regular from the permanent status, meron po tayo sa CFO sa website.
Okay. So, ayan na muna siguro. Pahinga muna tayo mga sirs. Thank you so much sa lahat ng ating mga panelists para sa mga binahagi ninyo mga kaalaman at mga expertise on the topics discussed. And I hope yung mga kababayan natin overseas who are watching right now, who are with us now through Facebook or via Zoom, kung meron man sila mga tanong before, ay nalinawan na rin sila dito sa mga ginagawang effort ngayon nitong ating mga nasa tourism department to make sure na kung kayo ay uuwi dito ay mas ma-enjoy ang Pilipinas despite this pandemic. Thank you so much for all the panelists. At now, may we have the request, the reaction from the academic sector representative, si Ms. Aylalair Gutierrez. Si Ms. Aylalair Gutierrez is a development consultant and the research manager at the Asian Institute of Management's Dr. Andrew L. Tan Center for Tourism. She is also a senior consultant at Warwick and Rogers and the Sustainable Tourism Specialist of the Mazungi GeoReserve Foundation Incorporated. Good afternoon, Ma'am Gutierrez.
Good afternoon po, Ms. Susan. Maraming salamat po for the introduction. So again, thank you very much for the Department of Tourism for inviting me to be part of this webinar, which actually means to me because I have my family, my relatives who are actually OFWs and who are longing to come back here to the Philippines. So again, my perspectives regarding today's topic are rooted from my experience working in the academe and a researcher in the industry. So first and foremost, I think importante na maalala natin na yung OFWs natin, yung mga kababayan natin are actually very critical components of our tourism industry. Imagine just the participants and guests of today's webinar, no? How many of us actually have OFW relatives and friends, right? So imagine if not all, at least most of us are related to a bagong bayani. Right? And in fact, in 2019, statistics show that OFWs are estimated at 2.2 million. So imagine these are 2.2 Filipinos who are longing for the balikbayan experience. From the warm smiles of their fellow kababayan, yung simpleng kumusta, right? Na hindi nila magagawa sa ibang bansa, from the hugs of their families and friends to even an authentic lunch, I guess, of a homemade Filipino food or lechon and others, right? And to date, unfortunately, their potential to contribute in the industry remains relatively untapped. And I'm speaking again from the perspective of the academe, no? To date, if you look at if you do a quick Google search or just check online, ano ba yung mga nagawa ng studies on OFWs and Philippine tourism, and makikita natin nakakaunti pa lang po. There's little to none on these studies. And I guess an important point here is that if we are to harness po talaga, gusto natin i-maximize yung benepisyo na pwedeng matulong sa atin ng ating mga kababayan. Of course, we have to make an effort to get to know them better. Ano ba yung mga pangangailangan nila? Ano ba yung mga pwede nating i-offer sa kanila? And I guess from the academe, no, I'm a firm supporter of what we call an evidence-based policy making. So maganda po na yung mga polisiya natin, yung mga plano natin, mga strategies natin for OFWs are actually backed by studies that can help us, I guess, become more focused kung ano ba talaga yung kailangan nila. And again, at the academic sector, we can be helpful with our friends from the industry, from the DOT, from the local government unit, and other establishments. And I guess just connecting lang po, Ma'am Susan, dun sa one of the questions discussed kanina, it was raised that what kind of innovative ideas or technologies are now being used for OFWs. Gusto ko lang pong i-point out na yung academe plays a crucial role actually in developing and enhancing these kinds of technologies and innovation. For example, makikita po natin ang dami ng applications ngayon na nagawa ng mga estudyante, ng mga malilikhain, no? Malawak ang pag-iisip tungkol sa mga ganitong bagay. We've seen, for example, Visita travel app. We've seen how online payment transactions have been mass-produced and mass-used, di ba, sa iba-iba pong lugar. So, we at the academe can actually help develop tourism products and services in the sectors. And as mentioned kanina po ni Asek Howie, just recently, we at the AIM also partnered with DOT in the survey po on the perspectives of the tourists during this pandemic. And of course, we can also help out. Ano ba yung mga travel circuits? Ano ba yung mga meron tayo? No, imagine sa dami po nating schools na nakakalat sa buong bansa. If each of them could actually help develop a specific product sa paligid nila, then it would be easier for our friends from the government and from the private sector to craft the products and services that we have. Again, ideas from the youth, from the students, from the educators and researchers can amplify the efforts po na mention po kanina. And apart from this, siguro po last point with the interest of time, the academe can also play a crucial role also in informing our fellow kababayans na ito pong pagtulong niyo po sa pagbisita niyo sa Pilipinas, it's not just for you, it's also about helping your country, yung pagtulong po sa bansa para makapag-bounce back, para ma-restart yung tourism given the impacts of the pandemic. So I guess to summarize lang po my points, we at the academe are part of this supply chain of tourism, and we can support in enhancing existing government initiatives in welcoming our fellow kababayans to a safe travels here in the Philippines.
Thank you.
Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Miss Ayla. And now, ito na, pakinggan naman natin ang reaction ni Dr. Maruha Asis, who is the director of the Scalabrini Migration Center. She is a sociologist who has long been working on international migration and social change.
Magandang hapon, and thank you very much, Ms. Susan, for the introduction. So I think first I'd like to thank, of course, the Department of Tourism for the opportunity to share some thoughts and some insights on the presentations. Given the Philippines' history of massive migration since the 1970s, the country's overseas Filipino population has broadened to include permanent settlers as well as different categories of temporary migrants, which include the large numbers of overseas Filipino workers and even migrants in an irregular situation. I would just like to make some comment about this concept of diaspora tourism, which I think is very relevant to the focus of the DOT on the overseas Filipino population as a specific market. The concept of diaspora tourism is a tourism program that is aimed at attracting immigrants and their descendants to visit the homeland. And it is part of the niche markets that many countries of immigration, such as the Philippines, have earmarked to energize their tourism programs. So some of the things have already been mentioned by the previous reactor. Diaspora tourism invites the members of the diaspora to visit the home country by banking on the power of sentimental journeys or selling nostalgias and intangibles such as reconnections, memories, evoked by flavors, smells, sights, and sounds. And we have seen this in the very beautiful video campaigns that were launched this afternoon. The term that we use today to refer to this specific market, balikbayan, was born out of a particular period in our recent history. In the 1970s, the Department of Tourism invited overseas-based Filipinos, mostly based in the US at the time, to visit the country and see for themselves the progress that has been achieved under martial law. But over time, the distribution of Filipinos in different parts of the world broadened and expanded the coverage and meaning of balikbayans. So kahit nga yung ating balikbayan box, dati galing lang yan sa US. Pero dahil yung mga Pilipino ay nasa iba't ibang panig na ng mundo, iba't ibang versions din ng balikbayan boxes ang pumabalik dito sa Pilipinas. So I would just like to comment or suggest a few points for the DOT's consideration. For example, when we wish to appeal to the Filipino diaspora, we also need to recognize that overseas Filipinos are not homogeneous. The members of the Filipino diaspora vary in terms of where they reside or generation, among others. So for example, first-generation Filipino migrants who spent part of their lives in the Philippines have a history of living in the Philippines. So iba po yung hugot ng Pilipinas para sa kanila. While the second generation and latter generations of Filipinos did not have a direct experience of having lived in the Philippines. In fact, studies on diaspora tourism that have been done on other national groups suggest that the first generation immigrants have a lot more interest in visiting the home country, while the second generation are less inclined to do so. And I'd like to comment very briefly on the video campaigns. Napansin ko lang po yung video campaigns, even the ones that are addressed to the overseas Filipinos, parang napakabata po ng demographics. Siguro sensitive lang ako kasi senior citizen ako, but I did not see, for example, representations maybe of older Filipinos or older tourists in the video campaign. So perhaps that is something that can be considered. I would also not leave out the OFWs in promoting Philippine tourism, as was mentioned earlier by Ms. Ayla. So OFWs make periodic visits to the Philippines, usually at the end of their work contracts. And it's not only during holidays, it's not only around Christmas time that OFWs return to the Filipinos in large numbers. Actually, siguro kung titingnan natin sila sa market, OFWs return at different parts of the year. At yung mga makikita po natin ng mga months na merong mga spike, napaka-importante po because they are related also to special events like graduation. Nako, di ba? Pag graduation, ang dami talagang bumabalik ng mga OFWs. And also fiestas, hometown fiestas are also invite a lot of visits from the OFW communities. So when they return for vacation, again, our study suggests that actually part of the bonding time of OFWs, part of their vacation time, is spent with their families, and that is spent in visiting different tourist destinations in the Philippines. So kanina natuwa naman po ako na parang may narinig yata ako na may mga special packages and also promotions that are also targeted at them. So that is certainly a step in the right direction. My last point is I'd also like to mention that the visits to the Philippines by members of the Filipino diaspora and also by OFWs, they could actually lead to other outcomes. Return visits may encourage participation in volunteerism, philanthropy, or to contribute to brain gain programs such as the Balik Scientist Initiative, no? Or investing in the country. Director Ivy mentioned that a CFO has this very informative link, Balik Bayan portal, which provides really useful information on how members of the Filipino diaspora can contribute to the Philippines in different ways. I also see this as working very well at the level of LGUs, where tourism officers may link up with relevant LGU offices to develop materials, to promote investments, or to invite balikbayans to participate in various development initiatives. And finally, if I have one wish, I guess I would also just like to suggest to our DOT officials if they could also consider amplifying the educational aspects of tourism. No? That is of raising the awareness and encouraging both hosts and tourists to foster responsible and sustainable tourism. In that way, journeys to the Philippines will not only be fun, but they will also be meaningful and sustainable. Maraming salamat po.
Salamat po, Dr. Asis. Okay. And thank you very much also sa lahat ng ating mga naging, okay, let me sa lahat ng mga naging panelists natin for today. Si Undersecretary Woodrow Makiling, Undersecretary Christopher Morales, ASEC Howard Lance Uyking, Miss Ivy Miravalles, and of course our actors, Miss Ayla Lair Gutierrez and Dr. Maruha Asis. And I hope itong mga na-present nila dito in today's webinar makakatulong para sa ating mga kababayan abroad na talagang to do their part para matulungan ang ating bansa sa pamamagitan ng pagtugon dito sa mga tourism program and projects na talaga namang pinag-iibayo ng mga tauhan ng DOT para lang talagang maging ika nga kung sakasakali uuwi yung ating mga kababayan galing sa iba't ibang panig ng mundo talaga naman magiging sulit ang kanilang pag-uwi dito sa Pilipinas at talagang pagbalik nila masasabi nila na kailangang bisitahin ng bawat isa ang Pilipinas dahil sa mga ipinagmamalaki at talaga namang napakaganda nating bansa. With that, maraming salamat po sa lahat ng ating panelists and reactors. Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat at naway maging ligtas tayong lagi sa kabila nito mga patuloy nating kinakaharap na paglaban dito sa pandemya, and may we all have a great weekend with our families and with our loved ones. Maraming salamat po at magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat.
Once again, thank you, Ms. Susan Enriquez, for moderating the panel discussion and providing us a wrap-up of today's talk. Now for our closing remarks, let us hear from the OIC Undersecretary for Tourism Development of the Department of Tourism, OIC USEC, Verna C. Buensuceso.
Good afternoon, everyone. We want to thank you all who contributed to the successful conduct of this event. We say thank you to our dynamic keynote speaker, Ms. Carmelita Nuki, for sharing her inspirational message to our dear overseas Filipino workers at this time of the pandemic. We would also like to give thanks to our presenters and panelists, Director Ivy Miravalles for the informative discussion of the Commission on Filipinos Overseas online registration system, for Ms. Manette Reyes and Assistant Secretary Howard Lance Uyking for sharing with us the Philippine tourism statistics data as well as the current DOT promotional campaigns, for Assistant Secretary Christopher Morales and OIC Assistant Secretary Woodrow Makiling Jr. for sharing with us your expertise and experiences throughout the discussion. Our appreciation also to our reactors, Ms. Ayla Gutierrez and Dr. Maruja Asis, for your willingness to share with us your valuable time, experiences, and notable remarks on today's panel discussion. We would also like to recognize our partners from national government agencies and local government units for their active participation in this Overseas Filipino Month webinar. This webinar is made possible through the joint effort by the Office of Tourism Development Planning, Research and Information Management of the Department of Tourism. The celebration of Overseas Filipino Month is an annual event that recognizes the significant contribution of Filipino migrants to the country's economy and their role in nation building. With this year's theme, OFs in the New Normal, Supporting Resilience Towards the Post-COVID Era, this activity serves as a venue to discuss the travel-related programs and branding-related campaigns and activities, opportunities in tourism, and online services available to overseas Filipinos. The OFWs have been hailed as modern-day heroes for their contribution to the Philippine economy. However, with the effect of COVID-19, a lot of OFWs were forced to repatriate. And to buffer the impact of mass repatriation, the government provided various services for the displaced overseas workers. This webinar on Balikan ng Pilipinas, More Fun Awaits, is the DOT's effort to share the different programs and services available to our OFWs. This also has provided us with measures to address the impact of the pandemic in the tourism industry and how tourism statistics can be utilized for the recovery and rebuilding of travel and tourism. Allow me to conclude by assuring our stakeholders of DOT's full and steadfast support in overcoming the crisis on our way to a more resilient, inclusive, and sustainable development. Again, thank you, stay safe, and mabuhay tayong lahat. Maraming salamat.
Thank you, OIC USEC, Verna C. Buensuceso. Please tell us how we did. Kindly fill out the evaluation form by either scanning the QR code flashed in the screen or the link provided in the chat box below. Please be reminded that this evaluation shall be our basis for the distribution of the certificate of attendance. Now may we award the certificate of appreciation for the discussants. This certification of appreciation is hereby presented to our discussants for sharing their time and valuable knowledge as panelists in this webinar hosted by the Department of Tourism. This webinar is entitled Balikan ng Pilipinas, More Fun Awaits, in line with the month of Overseas Filipino celebration held on December 3, 2021. Once again, thank you for our panelists. And for our moderator, Ms. Susan Enriquez. Thank you, Ms. Susan Enriquez, for sharing her time and valuable knowledge as a webinar host or panel discussion moderator in a webinar hosted by the Department of Tourism entitled Balikan ng Pilipinas, More Fun Awaits, in line with the month of Overseas Filipino celebration held on December 3, 2021. And last but not the least, our reactors. This certificate of appreciation is hereby presented to our reactors for sharing their time and valuable knowledge as reactors in the webinar hosted by the Department of Tourism entitled Balikan ng Pilipinas, More Fun Awaits, in line with the month of Overseas Filipinos celebration held on December 3, 2021. Once again, thank you to our panelists, our moderator, and our reactors. At this point, may I invite everyone here in Zoom to please open your cameras for the photo opportunity. May I ask the assistance of our technical partner, MSI, to facilitate the photo op. For the MSI, please help us to facilitate the photo op.
Okay, first page po. Mga panelists and reactors po muna tayo. Okay, ready? And 1, 2, 3.
Wala bang heart? Walang heart?
Heart po, heart po. Sige po, okay, ready? And 1, 2, 3. Smile. Alright, okay na po. Next slide. Thank you, thank you. Meron po tayong 2 pages. First page muna. Paki-open po lahat ng ano. Yes. Okay. Okay, first page, 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Okay, second page po. Okay, paki-open na lang po yung mga cameras natin. Okay, ready? All right. One, two, three. Yung iba po, open po tayo ng cameras. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay. Next page po. Last page po. Dalawa lang. Okay na po pala. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, MSI. Once again, thank you for all the participants here in Zoom, and thank you for those who are watching from our Facebook Live. Before you leave, here is another performance from Koro Jesu and introducing Indak Lahi Cultural Folk Dancers. Once again, a round of applause for our performers.
Gayong kay hirap na nitong ating buhay. Kayang karuli at noche buena, kung mag-isa ay kapos at wala ng pera. Nakakahiya kung muling pagtaguan mo ang iyong hinahanap sa araw ng Pasko. Ngunit kahit anong mangyari, ang pag-ibig sana ay maghari. Sapat na si Jesus ang kasama mo, tuloy-tuloy pa rin ang Pasko. Harap pa, o bakit kaya tuwing Pasko ay dumarating na? Bawat isa regalo ibibigay, ngayong ay hirap gamit ang ating buhay. Mabuti pa nga ang Pasko noong isang taon. Sa ating hapag ay mayroong queso de bola, hamon, baka sa gipit at inuyin. Happy New Year! Makopos po at ang hamon ay mauwi sa araw. Ngunit kahit na anong mangyari, ang pag-ibig sana ay maghari. Sapat lang si Jesus ang kasama mo, tuloy-tuloy pa rin ang Pasko. Para pa, ngunit kahit anong mangyari, ang pag-ibig sana ay maghari. Sapat lang si Jesus ang kasama mo, tuloy-tuloy pa rin ang Pasko. Ngunit kahit anong mangyari, ang pag-ibig sana ay maghari. Sapat lang si Jesus na sa puso mo, tuloy-tuloy pa rin. Tuloy-tuloy pa rin ang Pasko. Ding! Minsa'y natuwa ang may likha, 7,000 pulo ang ginawa. Mga hiyas na inilatag sa malasutlang dagat. At ng bayan niyang pinili, nasa dulo ng bahaghari. Kaya 1,000 kulay ng aakit kumakaway. Piliin mo rin ang Pilipinas, nakulo ang kwintas ng perlas. Piliin mo, yakapin mo, kayamanan niyang likas. Piliin mo ang Pilipinas. Kasayahang di mapatid, ramdam sa bawat awit. Sama sisig lang inda, mga puso'y lumilipad. Piliin mo rin ang Pilipinas, nakulo ang kwintas ng perlas. Piliin mo, yakapin mo, kayamanan niyang likas. Piliin mo ang Pilipinas. At ang ngiti ng may kabal, taglay ng bawat nilalang. May lambing na tumutuyan sa buong pakiramdam. Piliin mo rin ang Pilipinas, nakulo ang kwintas ng perlas. Piliin mo, yakapin mo, kayamanan niyang likas. Piliin mo ang Pilipinas. Dito ay itinadhana ladies in the house with the party sound. First choice, first love, if you ask the crowd. Come and shout it out. Everybody's gonna dance to this. I see the whole world party in the Philippines. Now, Angelique, Info Bueno on the TV screen. This is like a samba. Only to Manila with the hitting and drum set. Shake it up and do some cycle of drama. Shake it up and Philippines. So without that, don't go keep talking. But we ain't walking. We keep on dancing. That's how we rock it. 7,107 islands of PVC pieces of heaven. Piliin mo rin ang Pilipinas. 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 Kakulong ang kwitas ng pelas. Piliin mo yung kapit mo. Kayamanan niyang likas. Piliin mo ang Pilipinas. Kakulong ang kwitas ng pelas. Piliin mo yung kapit mo. Kayamanan niyang likas. Piliin mo ang Pilipinas. Piliin mo ang Pilipinas. Piliin mo ang Pilipinas.